Welcome to episode 240 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I have two of my favorite people here this week. First off, Kelly Guimont is here. Hi, Kelly. How you doing? So glad you're here.
I'm doing well, David. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And returning, as we always like having him on the show, Guy Serle. How you doing, Guy?
Thank you, Dave. Kelly, next time bring enough for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. We need more. I think he's talking about the nice little water bottle that I just got today from Kelly. So
no, I meant the drink.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there is some liquid, but it's not of the alcohol type. But
yeah,
so,
Chuck Joyner's been saying that for years too, and I
that's right. In his cups of water, right?
Water.
Water. It looks suspiciously like vodka.
So Apple
isn't.
It seems that always when we're recording a show that Apple provides their quarterly results. They just announced fourth quarter results as we record this tonight, and we'll talk about that and lots of other stuff. Maybe a little bit of Apple TV discussion, something going on with iOS, and all the stuff we always talk about here. But first off, let's jump into the news. First story is Apple's reports. It was I guess I consider it the first quarter of 2023. They had 30 billion in profit, 117.2 billion in revenue amid a challenging environment. So they did pretty good here. I don't know if we have to bore everybody with all the numbers. You can go look at all this stuff. But some of the notable things I like to point out, I have a link in the show notes here of both Mac rumors. But of course, our favorite one is from our friend Jason Snell in 6 Colors. He always does these great charts. And they do a video too, which is kind of cool. So yes, they did some good revenue. Their profit was good. Year-over-year change was about minus 5%. iPhone still dominant. 56% of the products on Apple's revenue is iPhone. Services keep increasing, 18%. Wearables are going up, and it seems like the Mac and the iPad kind of swaps numbers here. 8% for iPad and 7% for Mac. So that's kind of interesting to see.
I'm not really that surprised on the Mac side. They hadn't released like new Macs in a while throughout the quarter. So, I think that the second quarter for 2023 will be pretty strong because of the new MacBook Pros and the new Mac Mini and rumors, of course, about the possible Mac Pro. But I am surprised by the iPad numbers. It seemed like for a long time, every single quarter, it was like, well, iPad revenue and profit has gone down. But this time it's gone up.
Recording in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very much there's a whole lot of, and we also sell iPads.
Yeah. We don't want to tell you how many or how much, but it was there.
Interesting. 9.4 million that they did in iPads this last quarter, and it was a 30% increase year over year. So
$2 billion bucks is not pocket change.
$2 billion. Yeah.
I think two things contributed to that. First of all, this is the Christmas quarter for people who are wondering, even though it's, they say that it's Q1 2023, like it's their calendar and the one you have on the wall are a little bit different. So this is around Christmas. So this is October, November, December of last year when we got new iPads, because we got the 10th generation iPad. We got a new mini
iPad Air 2, wasn't it?
And the new Air. Well, there was the Air, and then the regular iPad is now, and then like the Pro is M2. Like they revved everything, and then when you add that to iOS 16, giving you some other interesting features like Stage Manager and Sidecar, which is something people could actually use by the time the iPads came out, because you needed the new operating system that I can't remember the name of to do it. We're just having this conversation on Mastodon like yesterday about like, I don't remember the names of them in order anymore. But whatever
Jaguar.
Whatever the new one is, Ceiling Cat, if you've got Ceiling Cat installed, you can have Sidecar. Making all of that stuff work together, I think really did a lot for the iPad. I still have a lot of strong opinions about it, but it got a lot more interesting and a lot more affordable. And it was, I think, David, we talked about it at the time. and about how the regular old iPad, not the Air, not the Mini, not the Pro, got a lot more compelling at that price point with the M1 and being able to really be a competitor and be something that you could recommend to people. As opposed to, if you're looking to buy an iPad right now, what I recommend is you get a jar and you put a bunch more pennies in it so that you can afford a nicer one, which used to have to be my advice, and it's not anymore. And so I'm glad of that. So I was very interested to see the iPad numbers because of that spike. And the thing, there's going to be a lot of hand wringing about Apple not doing what they did last year, in the year over year comparison. But the thing to remember with Apple is always context. So this quarter last year, when people start sweating over year numbers, that was the single largest quarter Apple ever had in the history of Apple, period.
Right.
So coming anywhere near that neighborhood, is still amazing. Even by Apple standards. I just that's one of those things that is going to get lost in all of this. So, all that to say, obviously they're doomed and it's time to shut everything down and return the money to the shareholder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think back to the late 90s when, they would announce their quarterly returns. Yeah. And, their revenue would be in the hundreds of millions. And now we're talking about over 100 billion with 30 billion in profit. So, you can cry and moan and wring your hands all you want. Apple is doing just fine.
They're doomed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The stock reacted right away. I mean, it went up $5. Pretty quickly.
And it's weird because they usually drop on news as compared to rising on news.
So it was actually obviously happy reports to the stockholders. I don't know if that's
good or bad now.
Well, I think the iPad numbers were sort of a surprise, I think is what it was. Because they were a lot more. They were a lot more. They were surprising to me, and I knew a lot of people who were really excited about it. There was a lot of looking forward to getting new ones. A lot of people who were upgrading maybe sooner than normal because they had a really interesting lineup on offer, at the end of last year. So there's a fair amount of that I think that even knowing that it felt like a lot of people were buying iPads, and I know the plural of anecdote, it's not data. Even knowing that still was a lot more number than I had thought that it was. So,
yeah.
I thought it was an interesting number. So, yeah.
Yeah, the numbers look good. So, a couple notable things Tim Cook did say. We've been wondering about here the Apple Pay Later. We've been waiting for that for a while. I know there's been some issues with Goldman Sachs and the banking and getting all that worked out, but Cook did confirm that Apple Pay Later is in beta testing among Apple employees and it will be available to the public soon.
So, in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, so there's no specific date that was given by Tim, but the company is expected to release iOS 16.4 and other software updates in the spring because we still aren't on beta yet. We'll talk about that in a minute. I think that's going to be a significant thing. But there was also the news that Goldman Sachs lost lots of money because of the Apple Card. But they're continuing on with it. So I'm still using it, and everybody else is out there, and it's still a great card. I love that card.
Considering that it's a card that's best used if you pay it off early and often. I look at however much I have on my Apple Card at least twice a month and immediately pay.
Oh, of course,
whatever the total is. I don't even let it go 2 weeks before I'm paying that off. And that's. I mean, besides the fact that that's the best way to deal with your credit cards anyway, keep them paid off every single month. The fact that I can just glance at it on my phone and go, oop, I got a couple $100 in there. I'm going to pay that right off and get it out of there. It makes it really convenient, and getting 1 to 3% cash back on every purchase is a nice little bonus.
Mm-hmm.
It is. So, other notable things that Tim did talk about, layoffs. That was a big topic because Apple was one of the only big tech companies that didn't have any mass amount of layoffs like Amazon, Google, and Meta did. But Cook did acknowledge that Apple had made some changes to its spending and hiring plans due to the broader economic conditions. And he said he viewed layoffs as, I quote, I view layoffs as a last resort kind of thing. You can never say never. We want to manage costs in other ways to the degree we can. So that's good. I mean, I think Apple's doing a good job of managing that. Didn't go crazy with hiring like the other companies did. And Google had 10 to 12,000 layoffs. That's a lot of people. But really, if you bounce that out, that's what less than 5% of their workforce, because they have a lot of employees. But still, you don't want people losing jobs, and it seems to be kind of the trend in the tech industry here. But good to hear that Tim did acknowledge that. And other things that of note here was he did confirm that in Q1 iPhone revenue would have been grown if it was not for supply issues. So he did acknowledge that too, because it had been going around for a lot of speculation for a while why this is happening, because couldn't get iPhone 14 Pros or Pro Maxes. So that was a bit of a thing. Says he did say that he didn't have an exact market share in front of him, but he think that you would see that from a market share point that we grew around the world. But despite that, they still did pretty darn good with the numbers that we're looking at with iPhone. So,
well, even in China, I mean, their numbers went way up in China.
Right, that helped them a lot. So, that was a very good thing to see. Other one that said he talked about Apple Watch attracted a record number of first time buyers in the quarter. He acknowledged that, which is a good thing. I think I have, in my opinion, I think not any of us here would buy it, but I think the Apple Watch Ultra it was a good piece to put into the market for the Apple Watch, and for those who wanted to have the higher end watch and the larger watch. I mean, some people like that better.
I would have bought it for $600 if it had come at that price. But to spend $800 on a wearable, I have enough trouble justifying $800+ for a phone that I'm going to replace in 2-3 years, much less something like a watch. But I do like and the biggest part was the bigger size. I mean, I'm a big person, and
as well as I am.
Yeah,
I would like it. I tried it on. It was a nice watch. I just couldn't justify the price point for that.
Yeah,
I don't dive. I don't, and that's a lot of what it was doing. It was for hiking and a lot more physical activities that are not in my wheelhouse. But I think that has to do with it. But the other thing that was big was Apple did hit a milestone. They had a milestone of 2 billion active devices as services set a new revenue record. So in its quarterly performances, you had almost 2 billion active devices that are out there by Apple. Last year, at this time, it was 1.8 billion. That means they've added another 200 million devices in the last 12 months to surpass that mark. That's amazing. I mean, to have that many devices, Samsung had their big event. We don't cover that, but I mean, I just don't see Samsung anywhere near those types of numbers when it comes to how many devices are still out there. And granted, I think Samsung does have some of their older devices because people just don't want to upgrade. But also on the Samsung end of things, you're kind of forced to, because their OS disappears pretty quickly compared to how Apple does things. You got an iPhone 6S or iPhone 7 or 8, I think it's the iPhone now with the latest OS. But still, I mean, Apple still, as we reported last week, they're still upgrading the older OSs just because of security concerns. iOS 12 was updated, iOS 15 was updated because
all the way back to a friggin' 5S.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. So they're still protecting their users, even though the 5S a little out back in the support realm, but there's still people who are sporting those, and that's fine. I mean that if it works for them, that's great. But and great to see this.
Samsung's biggest problem is they do the same thing that so many other Android phone makers do, where they put out a ton of different models. It's the shotgun approach. They just throw crap at the wall to see what's going to stick. And if you, and this is what I've told people before, if you make the wrong choice with any kind of Android related device, you're going to end up having to buy another one in probably a year, maybe a year and a half, because the one that you have isn't supported anymore. Mm-hmm. And that sucks. But
And it's not up to you. Like, that's the thing is, if you like, I don't know how much they're doing this anymore, but there was a stretch where if you got a new Android phone from Verizon, then you would continue to get system updates. But if you got it on Sprint, you were out of luck. And like, even on that level, it's just sort of ridiculous. And that was the thing that was always really frustrating about it. And what's funny now is, like, I'm always joking about, Samsung is releasing a new phone right now. They actually are, but it just sort of feels like whenever we talk about Android, I'm like, Samsung just came out with a new phone. They did. Well, they kind of always are. So probably, I'm on pretty solid ground saying they just came out with the new phone, no matter when they say it. And like, part of that is just confusing. Like, even as a person, like, I'm a nerd. I like technology. If it's got a USB port and a little LED light tells you if it's charging or not, like, I'm there. And I look at that lineup and I'm like, this is too hard. I don't know how people are supposed to do this. Like, people, it is a thing that I have a vested interest in. And when given the opportunity, like in a professional capacity to recommend an Android device, it's never Samsung. It's always a Google Pixel.
Well, Kelly, remember that probably the vast majority of Samsung phones that are getting into people's hands are the default ones that they're getting from their carriers. It's not like most people that have Samsung phones are going, they're not going to Best Buy and they're not going to Micro Center and they're not going to all these other places to go, show me the latest Samsung phone, because by the time they get to the counter, there'll be another one. So, exactly. It's like they're getting the Q series phones that you're going to get from AT&T or Verizon or Sprint or whoever your carrier is around the world. But for the most part, that's where people are getting their Samsung phones. It's the one that they're being handed.
Yeah. I've had this phone for 3 years. I want a new one. Okay, here's a new one. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And you just sign this piece of paper for another 2 years of service.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, I want to cover with this before we move on here. The services revenue was an absolute big record, $20.8 billion in revenue for the quarter, slightly beating the $19.5 billion estimate. But that was delivered by 938 million paid subscriptions, which is up over 150 million over a year ago. I mean, so there is, hey, Apple's getting my money, and I think most of us here on this show, because
$30 a month.
I'm paying the bundle, and I'm enjoying it. I enjoy having all the services. It's not for everybody, but if there are some services you like, I know, Kelly, you split it up and just have some of the services, and that's great. But that means there's still people paying for those services. And iCloud is so easy to have, and then the other ones that just you add them is just if you find that you find a value to the bundle. But no, it's great to see. I mean, I think Apple sees that, and it'll could definitely continue to evolve when it comes to that. So, definitely going to be interesting to see. So, some more news that came across here this week is, for those of you who are football fans, I know what Guy is as well as I am.
Big time.
The Super Bowl is coming up in 2 weeks from we record this. Actually, be a week from Sunday. And Apple Music is the big sponsor of the halftime show this year. It was the first time in a long time. Pepsi was doing it for quite a long time. So they do have quite a plan that they're going to be doing as a new sponsor. Rihanna's going to be the headliner, and they have some new and exclusive ways to celebrate its first year. There was a press announcement that Apple released, and talking about Apple Music now offers Rihanna's full catalog with spatial audio and Dolby Atmos. So they're pumping up the music part of this thing, and that's really what they're trying to get people realizing. Oh yeah, they're going to have this, and so a couple of notable things here. And on February 9th, which is that's a couple days before the Super Bowl. They're gonna Apple Music's radio's Nadiska Alexa is gonna interview her, and so they're gonna have all kinds of other stuff. I'm not gonna go through all this, but they're even putting together an official collection of 32 playlists featuring the top songs that each NFL team listens to in the locker room. So they're really pushing. We're all excited, Guy, as he's cheering here.
That wasn't a cheer.
Okay.
Is it just we are the champions on every like on 30 different playlists.
I'm curious to go to that playlist now. We'll have to go take a look. But no, it's another way, just like with Apple TV Plus. Apple is coming up with a lot of new shows, and definitely it's just where they're going, and this is another piece of the services puzzle that is doing very well, and it's great to see. Have guys any other comments on that?
No, we'll see what Apple does with it. I'm please, Apple, do not have a big Apple-shaped stage. Okay, please don't do that. Please.
I don't think they will. Oh my gosh. Next story is
that's not the football that I want to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Thank you. Hold that thought. The other story, I always love these stories about the AirTag and something that gets lost and then things get found here. This one's in 9 to 5 Mac. Passenger sees his lost wallet fly to different cities thanks to AirTag after airline says they couldn't find it. Apple AirTag has certainly been a help to a lot of people around the world because of lost items, especially lost luggage at airports. But this time, the passenger actually simply forgot his wallet on the American Airlines aircraft. Although the airline said they couldn't find the wallet, Lewis saw his wallet fly to 35 different cities, thanks to AirTag. As shared by the passenger on his personal Twitter account, he forgot his wallet, and I don't know if he did recover it. And
what airline was that?
American Airlines. Yeah.
That says a lot about their cleaning practices.
Yeah. Well, if it was still there and the AirTag was still admitting that it was still there. So, but I agree. I mean, I think the AirTag is very. I'm going on their trip here soon. I have AirTags all over my stuff, and
I don't have any yet. I've got to go ahead and bite the bullet and get a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, I still have. I just bought another 4-pack here, so I got more here.
Well, I mean, they're pretty cheap. It's what, $100 for a pack of 4.
Well, this was during Christmas time, so I think I got this down like around $85 for these 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're definitely something that you should consider having. I mean, I have them on my keychains, my backpack, and it always have come in handy. That's for sure. So
the bonus tip I will give you, for Guy, you definitely need some, because additionally, this is something that somebody reminded me of recently that I saw on Mastodon, and I'm trying to figure out like what to do with this information. And that is that AirTags they also have an NFC beacon indicator majigger thingy in them. Sorry.
Is that the technical term for it?
I think it's a technical term.
Okay, good.
Majigger.
So it's got the majigger in it. And so the example this person used was because when you bonk your phone on an NFC thing, something will happen. You can make it so something happens. And so he's using it for a shortcut. So he has an AirTag in a case on the back of his Apple TV remote. So what he does is he built a shortcut on his phone that when he bonks the AirTag with his phone that's on the back of the Apple TV remote, it sets the Apple TV up with his profile. And then he set one up for his wife so that when she bonks it with her phone, it kicks off the shortcut that sets up her profile. And like he was giving other examples, like if you have it set up this way, like when you get to work, you could, if you have a work badge, you could put an AirTag with your work badge. You bonk your phone on the work badge and it kicks off the shortcut that puts you in work focus so that people aren't texting you all throughout the day or whatever. Like all these different things that you could do by kicking off the shortcut just with the AirTag. And I'm trying to figure out how I can use that power for good now.
I don't think you can. None of it's work related.
Well, it doesn't have to be work related. Like the other one was like, he went through a number of gyrations to do this, but has one on his keys so that like, if it sees that he's not in the driveway and he bonks the thing that's on his keys with his phone, it will like make sure the garage door is closed and set the alarm and lock the door. And I thought that was pretty cool. So,
yeah. So a little bit of home automation as well.
Mm-hmm. Because all you have to do is build a shortcut, and then what kicks the thing that makes it magical in this case is what kicks off the shortcut is you bonk your phone on the AirTag because it will NFC the thing for you. And I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, very cool. All right. I know Kelly's been itching to talk about this. The football season pass is launched on the Apple TV app ahead of the season start. Well, I'm sorry. In America, it's soccer.
No,
ML season
in America, it is men's soccer. We have soccer.
Oh yeah, women's and
then we have men's soccer.
Yes. So this is Major League Soccer. It's the Apple. We had, as we've reported before, that they did sign the exclusive contract with the MLS to show all games and unrestricted access to all their games live on demand without any blackouts, geographic content restrictions, and they're streamed in English and Spanish, as well as dedicated broadcast crews for each. So you don't need to have an Apple TV Plus subscription. If you just want the MLS, you can actually sign up for it. But if you are a Apple TV Plus subscriber through MLS Season Pass, they're offering it at a discount. Wow, $79 for the season. I might be tempted to do that, even though I'm not a huge soccer fan, but it'd be fun to watch that.
First of all, you should watch the Timbers. Second of all, there have been reports, at least here, that if you are a season ticket holder for the Timbers, that you get it for free. There are a number of people who have said, I signed into my account and it showed me that I got the whole.
That's of course my dad was the Portland Timbers.
Yeah, the Portland Timbers. So here's the reason that I'm excited about this is because it's as weird as this sounds for live sport, as Charlotte Henry would say. This is the most transparent, straight up transaction you can have. Because you just go, I want to sign up for season pass, and you're done. And you get all the games, and there's no weird blackouts, and it doesn't matter where you live, and there's no weird incantation that you have to do in order to get it. And
change servers and all the rest of that happy stuff.
Yeah. You don't have to VHS. You don't have to VHS. You don't have to VPN. It's Throwback Thursday. Ask your parents. You don't have to VPN anywhere. You don't have to do any sort of other secret stuff or sign up with your friend's address who lives outside of a magical blackout area or whatever. The whole thing is just you pay for it and then you get the thing and you're done. And that's the part that's amazing. And the reason I'm so excited about this is because I want it to be unbelievably successful so that other live sport providers will end up trying to follow the same model, because right now it's a giant pain in the neck if you watch any other sport to be able to watch and enjoy more of that sport. It's weird. And
like the NFL, for example.
Well, yeah. Like the NBA, where this is the story. The Portland Trailblazers play in Portland, not that far from my house. It's the other side of town. Mm-hmm. I can only subscribe to Comcast as a television provider. And that means I get the Blazer Sports Network, which will show me all the games, even though I could go across town and play that. I could go across town and buy a ticket and watch them, which is the whole reason that they always give for blackouts is we need to black out the local market so that people will come to the game instead of sit home and watch it on TV. Now, my dad cannot subscribe to Comcast where he lives in Eastern Oregon, but because he lives in Oregon, 250 miles away, he's in a blackout area because he could reasonably drive 250 miles and buy a ticket and come see the game. And it's a word I'm not going to use so that David doesn't have to edit, but it falls pretty firmly in the category I like to call words my mom doesn't think I know. And that's what it is. And it's stupid. And baseball has even more ridiculous rules that also do the same thing to other people. And it's dumb. And I want it to be better. And I want it to be better for people who are into it. I want it to be easier for you guys to watch football. I want it to be easier for other people who want to watch soccer or men's soccer to be able to do that. I want to it shouldn't be this complicated. And I think the thing that is baffling, the thing I'm confused by is, especially because there's, new broadcast deals all the time, is why they don't just go, why don't we just offer this to everybody for the next round and see what happens?
Yep.
And people will buy it. And I get that you're making a truckload of money, but wouldn't you rather have people that are also going to be more inclined to buy all the other stuff that goes along with being a fan, buying shirts, buying tickets, buying signed basketballs, showing up at fan events and stuff like that? Why wouldn't you want more people reeled into your ecosystem. This is the services offering for the NBA. And it's like nobody, Apple and services, which was nothing. And now, look at the amount it's doing for them. And if you could do that, if you could make it appealing for more people to buy tickets, to buy season tickets, to buy stuff at the gift shop at the stadium on the way in and out, that, buy that $8 soda, it would not be hard to extend an ounce of goodwill to people who have been trying so hard to do this for as long as they have. And, the fact that we can all rattle off a bunch of ways to get around the barriers they're trying to put up tells me that, they also aren't working. So that's why it should be better. So, yeah.
Well, I bought
this is
NFL
the girl on the
Plus.
podcast ranting about live sports. I'm done now.
Yeah, NFL Plus was a whole nother animal.
Oh my God. And the main reason why I got it, because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. I live up here in DC, and
someone should be.
Yeah, it is sad. You can't watch the games up here because they've been dreadful for so long that unless they're playing another major team, you're not seeing the live games here. Right. So I read what they had available for NFL Plus, and it sounded like, especially since I didn't live in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, that I would be able to watch the games. Well, I can't. I can listen to them on my phone. I can watch them delayed broadcast on my phone. I can't AirPlay it. I can't watch it on the Apple TV. I can't do squat with it except on my phone. And all I want to be able to do is every once in a while, even though I know it's going to be a dreadful experience, watch the Miami Dolphins play football. Now, on a somewhat related note, the XFL is getting ready to start up.
Yes.
And it sounds like, and I'm not going to turn this into, alternative league football.
Yeah, let's not.
It sounds like they're going to show all of their games that are possible to be seen on TV. I have tickets to see the DC Defenders play on February 19th, but that game is also going to be on TV here in Washington, D.C.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's how you build a fan base.
Right. I hope more of it happens. And that's part of why I'm excited about this. I've been to soccer games. I have watched them. I've been to men's soccer games. I've watched men's soccer on TV. I'm a casual fan, but I am excited about this for what I hope that it portends for others. And not having to be tied to a particular cable subscription, not having to pay an exorbitant sum of money. I could really use a new car, but I need this NFL streaming pass, or whatever. And so I really hope that it does nothing but continue to improve the live sport experience for other people. So
as long as you can still see some games for free on commercial television.
Right. Yep. And that's where which is half of my desire for it is just to make it better for other people. But also there hasn't been an opportunity to see a lot of football in this format. And so I'm looking forward to that too.
Yep. Okay, let's move on off the news. We've got topics this week. Not that it wasn't a good conversation. I just want I want to make sure we hit everything that we got.
Sure, Dave.
You guys for this week. I appreciate it.
As soon as we got off the Super Bowl, we were done. I know.
Yeah.
No. It definitely the soccer it does interest me. I mean that is a pretty good deal considering for being able to watch a full season of sports. Because you go try to get that for MLB or
literally anything else.
Although MLB I get for free anyway because T-Mobile does it every year. So. Yeah.
I mean, but maybe it doesn't cost that for a season of live curling, but otherwise, it's a very competitive price.
Maybe. Hey, I'd pay for live curling.
I didn't say anybody wouldn't. I just don't know if there's a streaming plan out there, and if there is, I don't think it would cost $80 for a season. That's all.
No, it wouldn't. So beta this week and some releases. There is no beta right now. I mean, we are waiting for iOS 16.4, but there is some rumors, and I think it's pretty confident that iOS 16.3.1 might be coming out. There's some evidence in the software analytics that Mac Rumors found. And they've done those types of updates before when we had 16.0.3 and 16.1.1. So, but meanwhile, we're still waiting on 16.4, the beta. We don't know what's going to be happening here. Some of the previous features, like we just talked about, the Apple Card and the savings account and some of the other stuff that has to be added yet. So, because there's not much else to say about that other than 16.3 is the current version. It seems to be working fine for everybody in the public. I mean, and no one's I've seen a lot of crazy complaints of any bugs and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody did.
Everybody always seems to find something here. So, so
the only real complaint I've seen so far is with the HomePods, but it's like one updated and one didn't, and then like one of them is not behaving like it should because the other one is not on the same version or something. And I don't even mean like a stereo pair, just like I have one that totally does what I want, and the other one is only half listening to me some of the time or something. So those have gotten weird, but that's the only thing I've seen is just like, once everything gets updated, everything's a lot happier. So that's the only real thing I've seen so far. So it's been pretty quiet on that front.
Yeah. I got 16.3.1 for my phone and my dog died.
Yeah. So speaking of HomePod, the HomePod Gen 2 is in the wild now. In fact, I saw a story that someone got it 2 days before. Lucky that person, I guess, before it was supposed to come out. So February 2nd, as we're recording this, February 3rd, it's supposed to be out. So that's coming out. So a lot of the social media influencers have got their hands on it, and they are still saying the sound quality is the same as the original iHomePod. A lot of things. I mean, I did see that the screen, it's a much bigger screen, and it doesn't have the small little dot. It's all spread out, so the visuals look a little different. They're cosmetically, it looks like the way it's sealed. The big thing we did talk about last week, and people doubted it, and it was the rumor, the power cord does come out, which I think is great. So you can pull the power cord out of the HomePod, and that was the biggest pet peeve of mine, because I'm looking it up there right now. Anytime there's something wrong with that cord, you're kind of out of luck, because you got to take it apart to get to it, and it's not easy to get one of these apart. So, I think that was a smart thing on Apple's part by adding that.
Cool. Now do the iPod Mini, HomePod Mini.
Yeah, the HomePod Mini's got just the USB-C connector on it.
But it's hardwired on the other end, and that makes me grumpy.
Yeah. So I have a link in the show notes of some of the social media influencers. Of course, Marcus Brownlee did his, and he says he's confused. Of course, Justine did her thing and talked about a lot of stuff, and it's definitely. I just don't see any if you already have the original HomePod, other than the temperatures and humidity sensors that was added to it, and I just don't see any justification to upgrade if you didn't already buy them. Speakers are good.
I've got HomePod Minis, and they sound fabulous.
Yeah.
I don't really see a need to update to the bigger ones.
Same.
Yeah. I've had my HomePod pairs, my pair up here for a while, and it's great. I'm happy with them, and I just don't see any justification in upgrading them at this time. If
you're in the market for $600 minimum worth of speaker, depending on what it's for, I feel like there may be a better solution for you, which is spend $700 and get a HomePod Mini, and then get $600 worth of speakers, because depending what it is you want out of them, like I don't see any dramatic improvement in these. So I feel the same about them as I did the initial HomePods, which is that's a whole lot of money. And they sound great, but you could get something from insert audio speaker manufacturer here that might do better. And like, there's still no, some of the things that I've seen people talking about as they consider upgrading are, I want them on the TV, but I can't have a center channel, and there's no way to use anything, in a surround sort of situation. Like you can't have, a subwoofer and a center channel and a couple of HomePods and call it a home theater. Like that's not happening. And having, and you can do pretty well for a solid TV audio system for $600 or $700, so if you're in that market, then, there are better options for that because, David, I've been telling you forever, I'm a firm believer in the right tool for the job. And in a lot of applications, the HomePod is not the right tool for that job. And in an awful lot more cases, a HomePod mini will do the thing you want. It will be, It's got thread, it's got matter. It can be your resident HomeKit hub. You can talk to it. You can set it on the counter in the corner, as long as it's not wooden. Spoiler alert. And you can put it there and have it. And you can stick it in the back corner of the kitchen and occasionally listen to music on it and add things to the grocery list, which is what I do with mine primarily. I put one in the kitchen because my Bluetooth speaker was a pain in the neck. And so now I have this and it's great. So things like that, there are, for what most people need, the mini will do the job. Even if it's a stereo pair on a TV, the big TV
Sounds
in my house
great.
does not have HomePods. The big TV at my house has an actual stereo system hooked up. And in a different TV in my house, we've got a set of minis as a stereo pair, and they're great. They are perfect for that. So there are the right applications in a lot of situations, but that's not necessarily, I still have a hard time finding the sweet spot for the HomePod where I would tell somebody, obviously, that's the thing you need to do.
Well, a lot of it also has to do with how much trouble do you want to go to get, not the greatest sound out of your TV, but good sound out of your TV. And the great thing about the HomePod, and it took my Apple TV a while to figure out, there's a couple of HomePods there. But once you figured it out, I just turned the HomePod on and it's good to go. Now I've got a pretty decent receiver and some great big tall speakers also connected up to this TV. I don't use it anymore because the HomePods are good enough.
All right.
Yeah. And I don't have to go over and turn on the receiver, and I don't have to, that's a little bit too loud and do this and do that. It's like HomePod, and I use the Apple TV remote for volume and it's all done. Yeah. It's simplicity. And a lot of times you can put up with a slightly less fantastic output for the sake of simplicity.
Oh, yeah.
And at my age, I want things simple, damn it, like it used to be.
I like that your Apple TV voice sounds like a prospector. It makes me very happy.
Yosemite Sam.
And like you said, yes, I guess the new HomePod still leaves a stain ring on wooden surfaces.
That's what I told my wife too.
Yeah. God. I'm not going to touch that one.
Yeah, don't. I'm not, just for the record, I'm not saying don't buy one. If you want one, go get one. No, you do you. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Whatever. But if what you are looking for is a solution to a thing, it is very rare that a HomePod is going, to me anyway, it's very rare that the HomePod is going to be the best answer to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I've got links in the show notes for any things we talked about. I'm going to definitely look forward to hearing reviews. Our friend Webb Bixby, friend of the show, is in a chat room. He did order the new HomePod, so we're looking forward to hearing his review of it. We'll probably hear about it on Mac Voices Live next week. So looking forward to that. And I'll also mention N2 Tech. Thanks for being here as well in the chat. I know you had a bit of an issue with your cellular not working with the Apple Watch, and unfortunately, some of those smaller and MVNO carriers are just not going to support the Apple Watch when it comes to cellular. For some reason, I just make sure I hit those two topics as I saw that in the chat. So Apple TV. I've been spending a lot of time with Apple TV lately. I'm working on a signage project at work. Actually. So through using Carousel as a signage system. So that's an interesting thing to do with Apple TVs, and it's also interesting how to see how they get restricted down in Jamf when they're using Jamf to manage them. So I've been kind of dabbling into that a little bit
later. I'm very curious.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So that's more on the enterprise kind of thing. So that aren't going to. I think most listeners are probably not going to care too much about that.
That's why I said later.
But, yeah. So, Kelly's got a couple things that she wanted to talk about and relates to her woes with the Apple TV, and also I wanted to And we're also going to have another topic real quick on cord cutting, as I've been really exploring it again, and it's not looking pretty. So we'll hit that. But go ahead, Kelly. What you were having some trouble with auto playing video previews in the Apple TV, and then some networking issues, right?
Well, not so much trouble with previews as I think it's really obnoxious that if I switch over, if I'm swiping through the app icons, when I get to the Apple TV, it starts playing something. And I already told it not to use sound. Don't just automatically start playing something, loud with video. Like, that's really obnoxious, but it's still playing and it's muted. And I still was finding it irritating. And so I wondered if there was a way that I could just make it not do that. And it turns out that you can. Once again, as with a lot of things on iOS, the magic to undoing the thing that is driving you straight up a wall lives in accessibility. So I don't know why, but if you go to the settings app on your Apple TV and go to general accessibility, you can tell it not to play video previews at all. So it won't even start playing weird silent video, which sometimes, like,
for all channels.
Well, at least for I think so. I haven't noticed
HBO Max does that, and it's really annoying
on like the main screen of Apple TV.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you're going through all of the different choices that HBO Max has, if you just happen to say, "Oh, what's that?"
Oh no,
it just starts playing.
Yeah, within the app, it's obnoxious. And I haven't figured out how to fix that yet.
Okay,
but
sorry.
Like autoplay video previews is a thing that you can turn off, and
you said that it's in the accessibility.
Yeah, general accessibility motion. So you can turn off. I'm looking at
Apple TV right now.
You can turn off the sound for it under, like, I think under just like audio and video. I think there's a place there that says, like, do you want to play sound on the previews? Like, heck no. We'll go with heck no. But if you want to actually turn off the videos themselves, you have to go to accessibility to do that. So it's there and you can fix that. And that's a thing that I recently discovered that makes my life better. So there you go. I don't remember.
It's just a simple on-off toggle, which is great.
Yeah. And the thing I don't remember is if we talk, I know, David, you and I talked about this while we sat here in Zoom. What I don't remember is if it was part of the show or not. I got a new router recently, and when I swapped out my router, all of my Apple TVs started giving me this error up in the right-hand corner that said, "No network detected." Now, I was watching a streaming television program, and the stream never flinched. It didn't glitch. It never went bad. There was no degradation in quality of any kind. There was just this blink up in the corner every little bit that said, "No network detected." All the live long day. It was obnoxious. It was driving me up a wall, and it happened to all my Apple TVs. I'm like, what the heck? So David and I are sitting here, and I'm whining about it because it's frustrating me because I'm in IT. I do tech support all the time, and I've done all of the things I can think of to do except one. And the reason I didn't do the one is because it felt like the absolute least likely thing. And I told David, like, the reason I'm confused about why I'm suddenly getting this error is because all my Apple TVs are hardwired. I had one of those Apple TVs.
Yep.
I had one of those like second gen Apple TVs that would occasionally just fall off the network. And sometimes it came back and sometimes it didn't. And, you could roll for initiative, but it may not help. And so, like, I chewed through like 3 of those or something because I just kept having to take back the Apple store and go, "Here you go." And they'd test it and they'd be like, "Yep, it's one of those." And then they'd give me a new one. And like, so as soon as it was possible, so, after a while, I just gave up on them once they finally got an Ethernet port. I'm like, I guess I just hardwire all these SOBs from now on. And so then David goes, "Well, did you unplug the Ethernet?" And I'm like, "Well, no, because it's hardwired. Like, why would that work?" Basically was my question. Yeah. Like, there's not a timeline where that's the right answer. Well, guess what? It's this timeline, because I got really frustrated with it and I came in here because it sits in the closet and I unplugged the wire and I went back out and I went, "Okay, do you know about my Wi-Fi network?" And it said, "Yes, we're good." I'm like, all right. So I checked the router, made sure the router saw it on the right IP address. And then I haven't seen that notification since. Why this works baffles me.
Yeah. I had a similar problem when I first got my HomePod minis, where it would not see them. I had to, every single time I would turn on the Apple TV, I'd have to hit that button over on the right and then bring over that little menu and then select the sound source. It was like, why do I have to do this every single time? And it turned out it was because I had that Apple TV hardwired into a router. As soon as I disconnected it from the router, because of course the HomePod minis are also wireless, so they have to go. They have to go through your Wi-Fi network. But because the Apple TV was hardwired through Ethernet, that was the network that it was like saying, "This is the only thing I'm going to use. I'm not going to use anything else." So if you have your Apple TV hardwired, it may say that it sees your Wi-Fi network, but it may not use it. And as soon as I disconnected it from Ethernet, HomePod speakers came right up. Never had a problem after that.
Yeah. So
frustrating.
Yeah, it's just, I guess the moral of the story with when it comes to the Apple TV, I see the challenges all the time with networking. I have two networks in my home now, because, and that's another reasoning of I'll be talking about cord cutting here in a minute, because I still have my Comcast service and I have to keep the internet because otherwise you unbundle it, you pay out of your behind. And then I have AT&T Fiber, which is the bomb because it's one gigabyte up and down, which I'm in absolute heaven. That's how I'm talking to you right now, and I never had very rare of any flaws with it. So yeah, it's just really dependent on the network. And then the reason I bring that up is because I have to have the Apple TV on the Comcast network, because if I want to use their stream service and I want to be able to watch the content, I can't unless I'm on their internet.
Yep.
So I'm having some challenges there too. So, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, there is the reason I bring that up is this. Yeah, in general, I see a lot of times there are some networking challenges when it comes to Apple TV, and you do see that. And for the most part, it clears it up. I mean, I think tvOS 16.3 has got some improvements, so I haven't seen it as bad since that.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it since the last couple. Since the last couple of updates to see if it's still doing that.
Yeah. So. But no, thanks for bringing that topic up, Kelly. And then, definitely check out that,
I've saved so much frustration
tip out that
aggravation.
That link we have in the show notes was a couple of years old about how to do the auto playing settings, but it's still valid.
That was a new discovery for me, but the mostly I wanted to bring up the networking one just to give you the shout out for I really thought I had tried everything, and I went, I don't know why unplugging the Ethernet, especially because that was never the solution to everything that's ever wrong with the Apple TV is make sure it's got an Ethernet cable. Yeah. And so I'm like, but I gave it the Ethernet cable. Everything's right. And now it's fine. And I am baffled by this. Yeah. So thank you. Because
you're welcome.
Was so much frustration and on my own behalf.
We help each other. That's why we help, and why we do the show too. We help others as well. You might have that issue. So
and now Mr. Kelly also has to find a new thing to complain about, which also makes me happy.
He'll find something. Don't worry.
I have no doubt.
Yeah. So I just briefly I want to talk a little bit about the cord cutting thing I have been exploring. Yeah. So you got a number of the services that are out there. You have YouTube TV, you have Hulu with live TV. You want to have those are probably the top two that are out there beyond your cable provider. Whereas if you're West Coast, it's Spectrum. If you're most of the country, it's Xfinity, Comcast. And you just get fed up with their bill. I mean, they're just it's super expensive, and you just. That's where I was. I was just getting so irritated of what, and they're raising Xfinity's raising their prices up again, and all the rebroadcast fee and all that. So to make these decisions, you have to kind of factor in what is important to you as far as the channels go. So I looked at I did YouTube TV for a month here because T-Mobile had a deal where I get $10 off of it for a year just to explore it. They do have a great interface, and don't get me wrong, I really like it. And I'm getting rid of all the cable boxes with Xfinity because they're charging it $10 a month. You can use that on the Apple TV and using their Stream app, and I'm used to it now because you can actually fast forward through commercials and do all that stuff through the interface on the Stream app for their Xfinity. So I have Apple TVs on all my TVs, well, except for one because the wife has to have she's still used to the X1 platform from Xfinity. So, but I'm easing her off of it because there's an Apple TV up at our lake house, and I say, hey, look, honey, see how much easier it is. You could use the Apple TV. So,
that doesn't work, by the way.
It did work actually. She's very close now. I think I've got her. I was almost convincing her to just get rid of Comcast altogether. But there's channels I like, and unfortunately, YouTube TV doesn't have the A&E and History Channel networks on their service. So then you got to go get another service, like the Friendly service has it, but then their video quality is crappy. Then they have another $7 a month they got to pay, and then you got to. And then you have to have another platform to another app to go. Oh, I got to remember to go watch that. There's local channels. I like local channels. I like to have them. YouTube TV has them. Hulu Live TV has them, but the price will tend to get higher because of that. You don't have rebroadcasts for local channels. I mean, or your standard ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. But you got to pay for it. So you look at that too. So I start comparing all that. I just after the last couple weeks of dealing with this, I just threw in the towel. You know what? I'm at your mercy now, Xfinity. So you do give the best packages of the channels, and unfortunately, there are a lot of channels you don't have. You go from 10 channels to 125 channels. You don't have anything in between. Some people don't want all the other garbage that you're offering. So, and then YouTube TV offers some of the sports, like you can get NFL Network on YouTube TV, including in their basic package. Where on Xfinity you can't. You have to pay extra for it. So it's crazy stuff. I put two links into the show notes. I know, Guy, you've recommended this site before. It's the suppose.tv. It's really cool. It does give you some ways of kind of aggregating some of the things that you're out there too. Another mention, Chicago Cubs, or the local network here, is called Marquee Sports Network. The only way I'm going to be able to get that is through Fubo TV or with Xfinity. So you just there's just so many variables at this point, and Xfinity knows it because they're paying the absorbent retransmission fees that they have to pay in order to carry all these channels. And YouTube TV just lost negotiation with MLB Network. So now if anybody was a baseball fan wants the MLB Network on YouTube TV, it's gone already.
You got to go someplace else.
Got to go someplace else for that. So, I mean, it's just a constant battle. So everybody thinks that the cord cutting was the thing to do. You saved money in the long run. Honestly, you don't. You really got to decide what's the most value to you.
I think it
with
depends.
These channels.
Yeah, I think it depends. My dad is in the process of that now. Apparently, it's going to be the Kelly's Dad Show episode today. Because it goes back to the blackouts and everything. So, my dad got disgusted with what it was costing him for TV and internet, especially because like the only reason he really had TV in the first place was a little bit of this and that. And then, like general broadcast TV kinds of things. And then sports, because my dad watches the Blazers and my dad watches the Mariners. Well, luckily, there's a network here called Root Sports. Sports Northwest, and Root Sports Northwest is available on Fubo. And so my dad got Fubo in order to do this, and it's still way cheaper than whatever his cable situation was before. And now he can ratchet down his internet to be, because my dad doesn't have a very complex network. So his internet now costs a lot less, even though he unbundled it because he's not stuck with Comcast. If you don't get two things, it's going to cost you, an arm and a leg. So he's set up now with Fubo and can still get network broadcasting. So the stuff that he liked watching on broadcast TV is all still available. And additionally, he can get the Root Sports channel so he can watch all the Mariners games and Blazers games that are available to him.
Yeah.
And that's the part that matters. And so, like, it looks like on their channel, I think I got him a deal because like the Mariners were doing something last year where if you signed up for it, you got a better deal or something like that. But like, if you just go to the Fubo webpage, it's $75 a month for their like entry level plan. And then you can add other stuff if you want to. Yep. But,
and Hulu is like $60-$70 for their full package as well.
Yeah. But so, you can also, this is like for my dad, the point of it is sports. So for him, that's an acceptable trade-off because it's still way less than the cable bill he had. But for other people, because everything is streaming, I think a thing that gets forgotten a lot, especially as we sit here, and pretty at least knee deep, we'll say, in the Apple ecosystem. You can just go buy a show. So if there's a show that you really like, just one show, like you don't have to subscribe to that channel ad infinitum just in order to watch that show. You can go to iTunes or you can go to Prime Video. I'm not going to judge you. Okay, I might judge you a little. Or whatever, place of your choosing. And you can go, I just want a season pass for Doctor Who. I just want a season pass for The Bachelor.
Riverdale. Oh, so much
Riverdale.
judgment.
No, I'm not going to. I won't judge you a lick for Riverdale. We will just have an interesting conversation.
No.
But, like whatever it is, you can just go buy that show. So if if you're like, oh, well, I guess I have to subscribe to Hulu so that I can watch What We Do in the Shadows. Like, no, you don't. You can just go get What We Do in the Shadows and it just shows up for you automatically and you're done. And
once the season is over.
No, they're usually live. Like,
oh, really?
The next day. So yeah, like Doctor Who, if you have it, if you get a season pass for Doctor Who, then the day after it airs on BBC, it shows up on iTunes for you, and it just shows up like, here is your show.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
So, yeah, it's a slight delay, but it's right there. So now the ones that are owned by the channels, like you can't do this with Andor, you can't do this with Marvel shows that Disney Plus owns,
Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can with Star Trek. I feel like if there were to be an exception,
there is almost all. Well, there you have like
Pluto TV has
Prodigy that's on Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
but almost all the rest of it, or at least the new stuff that's coming out now, is all on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
So you have to get it through them.
I don't know if I don't know if they make specific, like, I feel like if there were going to be an exception, Star Trek might be the exception. Like maybe you can get Enterprise through iTunes or Prime Video or whatever. Like maybe.
Lower Decks for life.
Yeah. See, Lower Decks for time. But like, that's a thing to consider as you look at your TV things. Like, oh, I only need this channel because I watch The Bachelor or I watch Big Brother or whatever. Like, don't worry about it. There are sometimes ways around that if you sit down and you're honest about what it is that you are actually trying to accomplish. Yeah. Again, the right tool for the job.
So, like I said, this is a big topic. I wanted to just touch upon that. Thanks for both of you for your input on that. And I have 2 tips and an app I want to get to before we close out the show for this week. One of them was how to track a flight on your iPhone. Flight tracker apps are just a popular way to being able to keep tabs for looking on for flights in the sky. But you actually can track flights in messages. So if someone sends you a flight number, let's say they put in a flight number from United Airlines or another airline in message, you should be able to tap that underlying number and actually get a real view of the flight's progress plotted on a map. It's super cool. And you also could do that in Spotlight search. You can do if you do a Spotlight search on the iPhone or the iPad.
Yeah, if you know the flight number.
If you know the flight number, right? And that you tend to do that when you know it. You also could search by destination, from and to. Even generally, whenever you're looking for a flight, especially for somebody who's flying in to visit you or whatnot, it does have some. I really think it's a super cool tip to know that you can do that right from either messages or from Spotlight search. I believe it works on the Mac as well, but on iOS, it's a super cool thing to have here. The other one,
let me hop on that really quick and just give people a pro tip. If this is a thing that you want to do, send just the flight number as its own individual text message, because that makes it really easy to tap on it. Because then if you tap on it, it'll go like it pops up for you, just like a tracking number for a package. So you just tap on it and it goes track flight, and then it shows it to you, and it's awesome. Sometimes it's hard to get it out of the middle of like a wall of text. If somebody's sending you like, I'm here now and here's my flight number link. And I'll call you later and blah blah. Yeah, if you can just get them to give you, AB 1 2 3 4 in its own message, then you're solid. It's great.
Yeah. So Apple's done a great job of integrating that to making it easier for search flights. The other one I wanted to talk about was the Apple Watch. Using being able to split the bill when you calculate tips when you're out at a restaurant getting a meal. There are two functions that can be used together, but one of the cool functions is on the Apple Watch. You actually can launch the calculator app on the Apple Watch. You can enter the total amount of the bill, and there is a button on the calculator app on the Apple Watch that says tip. You tap that in the top right corner, and then just use the divide button, and with the percentages, and then it breaks it down to right on your Apple Watch to show you what tips could be split between however many people are in your party when you are out dining with your friends and relatives. So
that's pretty great.
I think it's an awesome tip. And I use that calculator all the time on the Apple Watch. You only think, a lot of people forget to think about it, but it's super cool. Lastly, I wanted to talk about one app update. I don't know if you guys use this app on the iPad. It's called Notability, and I think everybody pretty much knows what it is. What they've done is they've added a new pencil feature for lifelike handwriting experience. And basically what it is, this is going to add this pencil feature. It does bring that experience to digital note takers. I've used Notability before. I think it's good for the sketching and illustrating, complete with pressure and tilt sensitivity paired with the Apple Pencil, as well as tools to provide more lifelike handwriting experiences resembling a digital graphite.
I hope it's better than my handwriting.
Yeah. So they do have, if you want to have, they have changed this now, because if you want a subscription, you have to have a subscription. We always hate that word, but to access the full functionality, it's $2.99 a month or $12.99 a year. That's fair, because that app is pretty powerful, and they did offer it for a one-time fee for many years, and just like everybody, it's going to that. So, but I was glad to squeeze those tips in for this week. So,
I like Notability a lot.
Yeah, it is very good. So, with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. I thought it was a great show. Thank you. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You also can become a Patreon of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We'd really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming, which is usually Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can watch the live show and the recorded live show, as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discussed are flipped into that magazine. The link is in the show notes. You can subscribe to the show on your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Mastodon at mastodon.cloud. That's at DaveG65. I'm still over on Twitter as well, DaveG65, and the show at In Touch with iOS. And Kelly Guimont, thank you so much for being here this week. It was a great show, and I appreciate you being here. Where can people find you?
You're welcome. It's always fun to be here. I'm always glad to be invited. And more importantly, I'm always glad to be invited back. You can find me on Mastodon, where I am verso at pdx.social. That's recent development. You can find me there. And the rest of the time, you can occasionally find me here. You can sometimes find me on Mac Voices Live, hassling Chuck Joyner about what's really in that glass. And sometimes you can find me over on The Incomparable, where I talk about a lot of different things, including but not limited to Star Wars. There are some other interesting episodes coming up soon that I don't want to talk about yet, but when they're live, I will let you guys know all about them. And you will be able to see all of them over on Mastodon, where I am, again, Verso at pdx.social.
Great. Thank you. Guy Serle, thank you for being here, and we always enjoy having you, and please tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, you can find me over at the mighty mymac.com podcast that I do every single week with Mr. Gazmaz over in the UK since 2009. I've met him one time since 2009.
Yeah, now do the rest in your Apple TV voice.
Okay. Oh, God. Oh. Yeah. All right. You can also find me over on the Twitters. I'm on the Twitters. I'm what am I over there on the Twitters? I am Vert Shark, and I'm also Mac Parrot, and also Mastodon, that dinosaur thing. I'm Mac Parrot over there on the dinosaur thing, and Counter Social. You can find me as Mac Parrot, and I have a YouTube channel that you can find. It's Vert Shark on the YouTubes, where you can do those like and share things. That's what you do with those. And there's other things. Just find me, please. I'm out there.
That's one way to end the show here with that. I also want to make sure I thank everybody that was in the chat room this week. Web Bixby, thanks for being in the chat, and to Tech, thanks for also being in the chat this week. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. We had a blast doing it, and as well as Kelly on the floor packing up. And thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon.